Great. Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our June meeting. I hope everybody had a great Memorial Day weekend. So, and I hope all your families are well. So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:34 p.m. Ms. Correa, roll call, please.
Okay. Everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So Commissioner Lillian Hobson.
Here.
Commissioner William Coons.
Here.
Commissioner Freeman Watkins.
Here.
Commissioner Angela Isaiah Payne. Commissioner Hurry Taylor.
Here.
Commissioner Rick Polito.
Here.
Commissioner Roy Lev.
Here.
Commissioner Brianna Fontano.
Here.
And then we have alternate Celia Valapondo
Here.
and alternate Christina Tresvant. Okay, and then we have an excused absence from Commissioner Nadine Gillis Ward. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 8 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 2.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
we have 8 present, including the alternates.
Yes.
That's my understanding, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next item would be the Pledge of Allegiance. Do I have a volunteer?
I'll do it.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I got my flag right here for Memorial Day weekend, so put your right hands over your heart. Let us begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under
Under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Next item. Next item will be introductions and presentations. Item number 4 on the agenda. I'd like to welcome our new Environmental Commission member, Christina Tresvant. She's an alternate. Are you here, Ms. Tresvant? Not here?
I don't think she's here.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Well, hopefully she'll be present for next meeting. Okay, under item 4, section B, we have a presentation about the Los Angeles County Sanitation District Joint Water Pollution Control Plan from Mr. Basil Hewitt, Public Information Supervisor. Mr. Hewitt, how are you, sir?
Pretty good, Chair Taylor. Pretty
Okay,
good.
and thanks for your attendance. I've seen a presentation of yours before, and it was quite good. So thank you for visiting.
All right, thank you. And also with me is Rupam Soni with the Metropolitan Water District of
Yes.
Southern California. We've been a partner on this most consequential project given the extreme drought we're dealing with. And so I wanted to really kind of set it up in terms of the joint plant in Carson, and then Rupam would take it over and talk about the regional recycled water program.
Okay.
So should I take it away?
Yes, sir. Please, by all means.
Thank you. All right, so if I have the ability to share and see if we have that. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Very good. And let me hide the control. And then Rupam, when I'm done, Rupam will take over. All right, So a little bit about the sanitation districts, and Rupam will talk a bit about Metropolitan. We were formed in 1923, and this is an actual photo of Santa Monica Bay in the early 1920s, where raw sewage was going into the bay, as well as the different water bodies in LA County. And this resulted in a life expectancy for folks in LA County of about 55 years of age. So people got together, passed the law called the Sanitation District Act, that created our agency. By 1928, we built our first and our largest and most important treatment plant, and that's the Joint Water Pollution Control Plant located in Carson that you see here. It's located right off the 110 freeway in Sepulveda. Soon after that, in 1937, we built a tunnel from Carson all the way down to Royal Palms Beach and San Pedro. Then in the 50s, another tunnel as population started increasing and flows to the plant increased. So we built 2 tunnels to convey this water that's been clean, but it's too salty for reuse out to the ocean. And between 37 and 1965, we built 4 ocean outfall where we discharge this clean water about 1.5 miles offshore in the depths of water about 200 feet. We now serve about 5.6 million people in LA County, more than half the folks in LA County. We serve 78 of the 88 cities, Carson being one of the cities we serve. And our structure is very unique. We serve 5.6 million people, but we have 24 sanitation districts, each based on drainage area. So you have local control, but yet you have the buying power of a large agency. And the area highlighted with the white boundaries are the areas we serve. And we have about 11, since the original treatment plant in Carson, we now have a total of 11 wastewater treatment plants. And they treat about 400 million gallons of sewage a day. And to give you context of how much sewage we're talking about, it's enough sewage to fill Dodger Stadium 4 or 5 times a day. And how does that sewage get to our treatment plant? When sewage leaves your home or business, it leaves a lateral, then it goes into a local line that's owned by your local city, or if you're an unincorporated LA County, owned by the County of Los Angeles. And those local sewers feed into one of the sanitation district's trunk sewers. And these are large, large sewers. We have about 1,400 miles of trunk sewers in LA County. Some of them are as much as 12 feet in diameter. And this picture gives you an idea how big our trunk sewers are throughout the county. And they convey water to 11 of our treatment plants. And of those 11 treatment plants, 10 of them produce what we call tertiary recycled water. And 10 of those treatment plants, the ones besides the joint plant, produce water that's pretty much completely reused in LA County. And the major use is groundwater recharge. Here's a drone shot of the spreading basins near Pico Rivera, right off the 605 and the 60 freeway. We've been sending water there since 1962, and that water has been percolating through the ground, recharging the groundwater table, the aquifer, and people have been pulling it out and using it in their daily life. Since 62, we've produced over 1 trillion gallons of recycled water, and we sent it to over 950 sites in LA County. We used it for agriculture, industry, landscape irrigation, the biggest one being groundwater recharge that you just saw the drone footage of. And then we've even used it to create artificial lakes and so on. But our last untapped source of recycled water is at the joint plant. Here, outlined in yellow, is the boundaries of the treatment process of the joint water pollution control plant. Again, notice the 110 freeway. But we also own buffer property. One of the things we learned the hard way is that you need buffer property around your facility, or people might build right next to your treatment plant or your landfill. So I just want to point out some of our buffer property. The old Color Spot property, we own that. If you see where my cursor is at, it's about 30 acres. We've now turned 10 of that 30 acres into offices for some of our crew. The middle 10 acres, we've turned it into, we've leased it to another nursery. And the 10 acres next to Carriage Crest Park, we've leased to the city of Carson to augment, to expand out Carriage Crest Park. We also own Bixby Marshland, and I want to hype that. That's open every Saturday, first Saturday of every month from 8 to noon, and that's open to the public. It's a 17-acre rejuvenated marshland that also has all kinds of birds and wildlife and vegetation. It's a pretty awesome site right here in the city of Carson. We also own the Wilmington Athletic Complex that we've leased the community, create a benefit for the community. We also own the site right at Figueroa and Lomita, where we're building a new tunnel. Since our 2 tunnels were built over 60 years ago, we're building a new tunnel to make sure we have redundancy to get the water out of the joint plant when we need to. And then also on the Main Street site, the Starbucks complex, we own that. We've turned that into a shopping complex to the benefit of the community. But let's take a close look at the plant itself, the treatment plant. Here's the main office on Figueroa. And give you some context, here are the various streets. In north end, you have Sepulveda. On the west end, you got the freeway. South end, you have Lomita. On the east side, Main Street. And I'm going to quickly step you through what occurs at this treatment plant. When raw sewage comes into this treatment plant, it first goes to these primary tanks that you see here. They're covered tanks, and it's as gross as you imagine. It's just raw sewage, and the sewage sits in those tanks for a couple of hours. The heavy stuff settles out, and the stuff that's on top, we skim off. That removes most of the impurities in that wastewater, but now you're left with water that has dissolved organic particles in it. So we pump it, we send it across the street on the other side of Figueroa to secondary treatment. And there we have microorganisms that eat the dissolved organic material. They multiply, they stick together, flock, and then they settle out. The stuff that gets, in terms of wastewater, the microorganisms, we settle them out and we recycle them to the front of the secondary treatment process. But if we have too many, we send them to what we call anaerobic digesters, these circular structures here, as well as the stuff that's settled out of the primary tank. We send them to these digesters that break down the solids material, reduce the odor, reduce the volume, and produce biogas that we use to run the treatment plant. And we have our very own treatment plant right smack dab in the treatment plant. So this plant is essentially energy self-sufficient. So everybody needs some drone footage. So here's some drone footage of the primary treatment. So notice the circular structure, those are the digesters. That's where the solids are processed. But as we go forward, the covered structure is where the primary treatment occurs. That's where the raw wastewater comes in. We do some pre-treatment where we take out rags and grit before it gets to these primary tanks, but this is where most of the impurities are removed. These tanks are covered. We spent over 70 million over the number of years for odor control. So if you've lived in Carson for a while, you've noticed a huge improvement. So here are these covered tanks right here, and here's part of the odor control piping that you see here. And I just want to show you kind of what's going on. Here's a little cartoon rendering. So the heavy stuff settling out, these boards slough that stuff into openings at the bottom of the tank. This stuff all goes to the digester. Then these boards and flight and chain, we call them, go to the top of the tank and they skim off the stuff that's floating. And that again goes to the digester just by doing this simple physical process, letting gravity do its thing. We remove 60% of the impurities in wastewater. From there, we take the wastewater that's left over and we put it through a biological process. And before I start the video, I want you to notice these different structures. These are what we call bioreactors, and they have paddles attached to them below these concrete lids, and it's mixing the water with pure oxygen. There's microorganisms in there, and we're feeding that wastewater from the primary treatment in there. And those microorganisms just have a field day with this buffet coming through. And as they feed on this, they multiply. And as we move forward on this image, you see these open tanks, we settle them out. So in about 6 to 8 hours, we go through the secondary process. And when you hear that, think microorganisms or biological treatment. So this is where we're settling out the microorganisms. And then we'll recycle them, use most of them at the front, but any excess we send to the digester. Pretty neat process. And what makes this process interesting is we use, a lot of treatment plants use air, we use pure oxygen. So it allows us to treat more wastewater in a smaller footprint. Here are some of the microorganisms grown in those bioreactors. Then the stuff that's removed from the process, the solids removed from wastewater, It's put in these anaerobic digesters. We have 24 of them at the joint plant. They're set up exactly like our stomach. They have about 96 degrees Fahrenheit. The same type of microorganisms that would live in our gut are in these tanks. They feed on the solids, they reduce the volume, they reduce the odor, and they generate this biogas. I want to give you a feel for how big these digesters are. You're looking at the top 10 to 15 feet of a digester, but the other 30 to 35 to 40 feet is below ground. So here's an inside shot of one of our digester. This board right here, where my cursor is at, is about 6 feet. And so these things are huge, and we have 24 of them. The gas that's produced in those digesters go to our, what we call our total energy facility that you see here. This plant's been running since the 1980s. It produces 20 megawatts of power. It basically makes the joint plant energy self-sufficient. We don't need power from the grid unless the plant is down for maintenance. So this plant runs on this, saving us anywhere from $9 to $10 million a year in terms of energy production. So then the stuff that's left over from the digester, the solids that are left over, we then send them to centrifuges to de-water them. There's a lot of water in the solids material even after 15, 16 days. We de-water that. We produce the stuff that we lovingly call biosolids because it looks like crumbled chocolate cake to us. And this is it being produced at the joint plant in Carson. And you know, our mantra is we want to convert waste into resource. So we're taking this, much like the water, we want to recycle it. This, we're trucking it to composting facilities. And this material is mixed with agricultural waste to create a soil amendment that we either sell or we use on farms in like Tulare County, Inland Empire. So we're closing the loop. So in 10 hours, we've gone from raw sewage, what nature would need months or years to clean up. We've done it in 10 hours. We produce the secondary effluent. It's clean, but it's too salty for reuse without advanced treatment because we have a high concentration of industry that discharge to our treatment plant. And so we've partnered with Metropolitan or MWD to recycle this water. We all are aware of this mega drought that we're in, and this treatment plant is treating about 260 million gallons per day of water, and it's all going to the ocean. So we think the time is right to capture this water to make sure we have a sustainable Southern California. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing and either turn it over to Rupa, or if you have any questions, and hopefully that wasn't too boring, as engineers tend to be.
No, thank you. Does anyone have any questions thus far?
And I'm just the warm-up act. Rupam's got the good stuff.
Okay.
I'm just teeing it up for her.
Okay. Commissioner Paluto, you raised your hand?
Yeah, thank you, man. This is a really informative, not just a PowerPoint, Basil, if you will, but for Chairman and I that went there to see your site, this gives me a good feeling of, like you said, the drones and everything of what you guys have there. Just capitalizes on all of what we're doing with our, recyclables. My only question real quickly is you didn't get a chance to talk, and I'm sure she might be talking about it, or you might later, but with the drought, with the water situation, where do you get the water flow for the gravity to keep those sewers, the main ones from all of our, under our streets and under our highways and everywhere else? How do you keep that flow? Do you guys flush out with water, with recycled water all the time? Or, because I know the toilets only could flush so much and bring so much water to the.
Yeah, I mean, that's an issue we're dealing with, water conservation. We're seeing, one of the things we've seen is and I'll use the joint plant in Carson as a good example. About in 2006, it was treating about 330 million gallons of wastewater a day. It could treat up to 400 million gallons. Today, it's seeing about 260 million gallons of water a day. But what we realize is that the amount of solids or pollutants in the water is the same or higher. It's just the water conveying it to the treatment plant is less. So one of the things we're also doing, and I'm not here to talk about that as the sanitation district, is we're analyzing the effects of water conservation, which is a good thing, but what does it mean to our treatment plant? And what does it mean to our sewer? What do we have to do to deal with this world where we're generating wastewater, but it's more concentrated?
Yeah.
So we're analyzing those issues. At this point, we don't have to flush our sewers at any point, but it's something we are analyzing. We have an extensive program to look at the impacts of that. But I feel like you said drought, and so that means that when I hear drought, I think RUPA. So,
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Sodi, anyone else have any questions of Mr. Hewitt? I would like to say before, one other thing before we did, I mean, I know 4 of us have gone to the plant and took us about an hour and 15-minute tour. Myself and Mr. Bolito, I think Miss Hobson went and Mr. Watkins went. Really fast, and this facility is located in our community. It's a fascinating tour to see this entire process. It really, really is. So I recommend, if you haven't been, you can get a hold of Ms. Soni or Mr. Hewitt, and they can arrange a tour, a driving tour. You don't have to walk.
yeah.
They'll just drive you. But okay.
And this is a condensed version of this tour. We tried to do a very short version. So with that, yeah, the driving one is much longer. And with that, I hand it to Rupam.
Okay, Rupam, thank you. Nice seeing you again. Please go ahead.
I think I'm happy to go, but I think you have some other questions, Basil.
I had a quick one.
Oh,
I
I'm
was
sorry.
just curious.
I'm sorry.
You said you built your first treatment plant, and I was just curious, were you the only one in the LA region that had built the wastewater treatment plant?
So
First one?
So what made the joint plant world-class, and Rupam used to work at the sanitation district too, so she knows the answer to this question. What was the genesis of this treatment plant was that raw sewage was going on Manhattan Beach, Redondo Beach, and all that. It was coming from where the Hyperion treatment plant is now. And so people were like, there needs to be a better way. And so when we built this treatment plant, the whole idea was to take it off the shoreline. And so the key were those tunnels and those ocean outfall. Just think about building an ocean outfall 1.5 miles offshore without scuba divers, without laptops, without all the new stuff we're expecting. And they built it and they got it offshore. And then it kind of showed the rest of the folks, hey, you don't have to discharge it right on the beach. Manhattan Beach property was real cheap back in 1919. And the major reason was just raw sewage on that beach.
But were you the first wastewater treatment plant before Hyperion? I guess that's what I'm trying to understand.
So Hyperion has been there since, and there's a great book called Brown Acres, I think. Schuyler is the author's name there, and it's done by Historical Society. The Hyperion the city of LA has had a footprint in Hyperion since like the late 1800s. So theirs had some type of treatment. Okay. But I think what we were doing in terms of the secondary treatment and the ocean discharge, no one had done that around here.
Okay, so that's Carson's claim to fame.
Yes, it's and Rupam, I might look old, but I wasn't around then, and Rupam definitely wasn't. But our first and second chief engineer, and especially the second one, when World War II broke out, FDR would reach out to him to set up treatment plants, let's say in the Pacific, or how, because you're now mobilizing a bunch of troops on an island. So A.M. Ron, our second chief engineer, had regular conversations with FDR in terms of how to do proper sanitation for these troop bases, over in Asia in particular, because we were leaders in terms of managing that stuff.
That's cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Coons, your hand was up. You had a question?
Yes, I would ask, excuse me, I would like to ask the question about, we have currently what they call reclaimed water coming through purple pipes from West Basin. Is that an outgrowth of your output? And could your output be used as reclaimed water? Reclaimed water generally waters the lawn and the shrubs and also for the cooling towers of the refinery, things like that. So, so it's a double part question, but is yours being used for reclaimed? And then
Yeah.
also, is it possible to use yours for watering and build it and reclaim it directly instead of going to West Basin?
That's a perfect lead in for Rupam. So those 10 of the 11 treatment plants, that water is going to different water purveyors such as West Basin and so on, and they're using it either for parks or so on. The issue with the water from the joint plant right now is that its salt concentration is about 1,500 milligrams per liter, when grass or, you know, most things need about 700. So it's too salty for reuse. And that's where Metropolitan reached out to us and say, hey, the technology's changed. We think we can cost effectively remove the salt concentration and not send a lot of that water out to the ocean. And that's a perfect lead in to what Rupam's going to talk about. And I think I'll give you a more thorough answer to your question.
Thank you, sir. I think, Mr. Love, I think you had a question,
Yeah.
right, sir?
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
I have one. Of course, it's, I've noticed in the past, and frankly, it's getting a little bit away from the water, but when the health department would issue their reports on talking about COVID-19 and saying the wastewater contained whatever, kind of help to prove whether the stuff is going up or down. Do you get involved with that, or you have scientists in the sanitation district who identify that kind of bacteria, other things too, that you're doing other than just strictly on the water?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to focus it. Yeah, so when the coronavirus when it sprung on us, our scientists at the joint plant, as well as some of them at the, we have a laboratory at the joint plant. I didn't talk about it. We have some fantastic scientists there. And then we also have some in Carson next to our San Jose Creek plant. They developed one of the first methods to detect remnants of the coronavirus in wastewater. They were looking for fragments of it. And so the coronavirus is a very weak virus. And so once it gets into sewage, soap will pull it apart, because basically think of it as a fat dumpling. So soap will pull it apart. But when you have the virus, you're going to excrete it or shed it. So our scientists developed a methodology of testing for remnants of the virus. And it allowed us to, for most of the pandemic, to have a 2-week head start. Like, we knew that there was going to be an upsurge based on what we saw, or there, you know, because people will have it and they don't know they have it for a while. And so we reached out to the CDC and universities, and we're still part of the joint plant in Carson, as well as our treatment plant in Lancaster. Every week, 1 or 2 samples collected and sent to the CDC as we hone in on what we call sewer surveillance method. And now other treatment plants throughout the nation are doing the same thing. And if you go to our website, every week we'll post the latest data that shows you where the concentration is going. And what makes it neat is you don't need people to take a test. We can find it in the wastewater.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I guess next, Rupam, are you next? Go ahead.
I am next. Yes. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to talk a lot about what we're using that water from the Joint Water Pollution Control Plant for. But first, I want to start off with a little bit about who Metropolitan Water District is and a little bit about the drought, because that has been big news lately for us, for all of us here. So let's see. Can you all see my screen okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so the Metropolitan Water District is a regional water wholesaler. We provide water to our 26-member agency. So you can see them here on this map. Our service area is quite large. It extends all the way from the Mexican border to Ventura County. So we have 19 million people in our service area and 5,200 square miles. And our water supply here, so the way it works for all of you in Carson is that we bring in water, imported water. We also invest in some local water supplies. We provide water to the West Basin Municipal Water District. And then West Basin in turn provides it to your local water retailers. So I know some of you get water from Cal Water, so they're purchasing that water from West Basin. So lots of times people don't know who we are because we never send you a bill. But we're around, we too have been around since the 1920s, like the LA County Sanitation Districts have. And I want to talk a little bit more about where your water comes from when you do turn on your tap. So Metropolitan has made investments mostly in imported water. That's how we got our start. At the time in the 1920s, the region was growing tremendously and there was a need for an additional water supply. And so we were formed to bring in water from the Colorado River. So in the 1930s, we built the Colorado River Aqueduct. It's about 250 miles long, an engineering marvel, goes through desert, mountains, to bring water here to Southern California. And water from the Colorado River is about 25% of our water supply today on average. And then when the population grew again in our region after World War II, we invested in the state water project system. And that brings water down from Northern California, from the Sierras to Southern California. And you have probably seen some of that infrastructure. If you've ever driven up the 5 freeway to Sacramento or to San Francisco, and you've noticed the canal, the aqueduct running next to the freeway, that's the California Aqueduct. And that's over 400 miles long and bringing water in from Northern California to us here in Southern California. And then we do also rely on local water supplies. So in the South Bay, you do have access to some groundwater supplies. There's also some water recycling that happens. As you mentioned, Mr. Coons, you're well aware of that. Everyone has been doing a tremendous job in water conservation, and that's a huge part of our water supply portfolio. So each one of us since the 1980s have reduced our water usage by over 40%. That's tremendous. So all of that is really what makes up our water system here in Southern California. And the way Metropolitan has done it with these local water supplies like recycled water or groundwater, what we do is we provide some funding to our member agencies so they can pursue those kinds of projects. But I want to talk a little bit more about our imported supplies. These past 3 years for us in the water industry have been unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this in our water systems before because of climate change and drought. Our reservoirs have hit the lowest levels they've ever been since we started filling them. So we had really low precipitation these past 3 years in California, and that's really impacted our state water project system. And then on top of that, because usually what happens is it snows in Northern California and the Sierras, that snow melts, it turns into water that fills our reservoirs, and then we use that water for our drinking. However, it snowed a little bit, but that snow, instead of melting and going into our reservoirs, it's soaked directly into the ground, or it's evaporated because of climate change. The ground's been so dry, the air's been so dry. And so our reservoirs are extremely low levels. In the Colorado River system side, it's a similar issue, but we've been on a long-term drought. And I don't know if you saw articles about Lake Mead a couple of weeks ago that were in the LA Times, but they're finding all kinds of things because the lake level keeps dropping. And so now they're finding all kinds of things at the bottom of the lake that have been there for decades. And so actually today is a big day for us. We declared a drought emergency a few weeks ago, but today that those drought restrictions took place, they're very specific. So for you all, you probably haven't seen them so much. Maybe you've seen them in the news, but you haven't seen them from your local water provider. These drought restrictions are really impacting these communities that you see here in like the dark orange color. These are areas that rely very much so on the state water project system for their drinking water supplies. And so the state water water project system is the one that's right currently most severely impacted. And so we've got these restrictions on these specific areas. So I live in one of these areas, and like and it depends on the area you live in, but it's like outdoor watering is cut to 1 day a week right now. And if things don't improve, it'll be cut to 0 days per week. Starting in September. In some areas, they're asking people to just reduce how much water they're using per capita at home. So you kind of have to track your water usage.
Rupam, when you
Yes.
say the state water project, you're talking about the water that comes from Shasta Lake, from Northern California, right?
From Northern California. Yeah, exactly. From Oroville down through the California Aqueduct to the systems that you guys know that you probably see closer by, like Castaic Lake, Pyramid Lake. All of those are on the Paris. Those are all on the state water project system. So it's been really tough for us. And so we're asking people to conserve right now to get us through this really challenging time. But as we're planning, we're also planning very much for the future, because this is going to continue. These unprecedented years are going to continue to happen with climate change. And so our regional recycled water program is one of these projects that's going to really help us through our climate change challenges. And what it is it's the heart of this program is right here in the city of Carson. It's taking the water that Basil talked about, the cleaned water from the Joint Water Pollution Control Plant, which is right now going to the ocean. And instead, what this project will do is take that water and send it to an advanced water treatment plant where that water would be purified. So it's already been cleaned, and we would take it up a notch, actually 3 notches. So it would be, and we'll talk a little bit more about what the purification process is in a couple of slides, but that purified water that could then be used for drinking. It could be used for drinking by sending that water into our groundwater basins. And we rely on these groundwater basins as part of our drinking water supply. So it would help refill those basins. And then we could pump that water up, put it into a water treatment plant, and send it out. We could also send that water nearby the plant. You all know this, there's refineries. There's other areas that potentially could use water. We're looking at maybe some irrigation purposes too, just around the plant, where we could use this water. So we're planning on using the water that way. And then the third and final thing is the state's coming out with regulations that would allow us to do this next year. So this is a new thing, but we could also take this purified water and send it into our drinking water plants. And then what that water would do is it would mix with the water that's coming in from the Colorado River and from Northern California, from the State Water Project system. It would go through our water treatment system, and then it would go out through our delivery system to our member agencies. And so all of this would provide a new drought-proof supply of water for our region. This is a huge project. It would produce 150 million gallons of water daily. And if you're trying to visualize what that is, yes, it's a lot of water, but it's enough water for 1.5 million people. And that's a lot of people. That's about the population of a big city like Phoenix or Philadelphia. And this would make it one of the largest programs of its kind in the world. And there are a lot of these different types of projects around. There's a huge project in Orange County, which is currently the largest of its kind in the world. And it's expanding to about 130 million gallons a day. So again, this is a little bit more than that. And it will have the title then of being the largest. So here's a map view of the program. So you get a sense of where this project is happening and where this water is going to go. So again, here, Carson, the heart of the program. This is where the Joint Water Pollution Control Plant is. And then this is also where we would construct our advanced water treatment plant, either at the same site or nearby. And then we're looking at sending this water to these different groundwater basins that you see with the different colors here. There's a pink one, a green one, and an orange one. All these groundwater basins have names. You can't see them. They're all underground. But there's the West Coast Basin that's closest to you in the South Bay area, the Central Basin, which covers the Central and Southeast LA County areas, and the main San Gabriel Basin, which covers the San Gabriel Valley. So what this project involves is constructing this advanced water treatment plant in Carson, and then also building a new pipeline to deliver the water to these different groundwater basins. And that's what you see here in blue. Then once we're all the way up to the main San Gabriel Valley here, which is almost 40 miles away from Carson, so this is quite a distance, then we're really close by to one of our drinking water plants. It's called our Weymouth Water Treatment Plant. It's located in Laverne. And so we're looking at maybe using existing infrastructure to send water there. And then we would definitely be using existing infrastructure to send water to another water treatment plant we have down in Orange County. So, and then from there, we also have existing infrastructure to connect to the Orange County Groundwater Basin. So you can see this program starts in Carson, but it extends throughout LA and Orange County. And the water that comes, is coming here from your community will be a new drinking water supply for millions and millions of people in the region. All right, so this is, I said I was going to talk about our purification process. Here it is on the left. It's a 3-step purification process. And Chair Taylor, yes, we're so happy that you came on the tour. We would love to have any of you visit us on the tour. You can see here that Governor Newsom came to visit us. This was my 15 minutes of fame, you all, so I have to share it here. I don't know if you saw the Daily Breeze, but this was Wednesday. It was a couple weeks ago, Wednesday, May 18th. He came to visit. Your mayor was there too. Mayor Davis Holmes was there visiting and spoke as well at the press conference that we had here, that you can see a picture of here. So that was really fantastic. So you can see that this, again, we love being in Carson, but this project does have regional benefits and benefits throughout California. That's why the governor was there to express his support for this project. And so this purification process takes that cleaned wastewater and it turns it into water that's basically near distilled in quality. It's so pure, we have to add minerals back into the water to be able to use it again. So that just speaks to the quality of the water. And then we are also monitoring the quality of the water all along the process. And at the end of the process, we have our scientists hard at work, and we're using online instruments as well, just to make sure that we have water of the highest purity that can be reused over again. And this is a little bit about our schedule. So we've been working on this program with the LA County Sanitation Districts since 2009. And we are currently in the environmental planning phase of the program. So what that means is we're going to start working on our environmental documents for the program. So our environmental review documents, like our environmental impact report, we're going to be coming out with a notice of preparation for that this fall. And we will be back in touch with you when that is happening. And that's a chance for you all to give input into this process, like your feedback on what we should be looking at, and what environmental considerations we should be making when we're doing our review. And then we'll come out with a draft environmental impact report next year, and then a final environmental impact report in 2024. Then we'd begin design and construction and startup and operations. We are looking for ways that we can speed up the schedule. Because of this drought, we really want this project online sooner if we can. And actually, the governor told us that it's mentioned at the press conference that this project was going to be online in 2027. So we're like, okay, or 2028. So we're like, okay, we better get busy. So we are looking for ways to expedite all of this and be online in a couple years instead, or a couple years. It's not in a couple years, a couple years earlier. And then this is our project website if you are interested in more information, and I can drop that into the chat. And we also have an e-newsletter, and I can drop the link to that e-newsletter if you're interested in signing up also into the chat. But I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so I can see all of you again. There we are.
I have a question.
Sure.
Are you done? And
Yeah.
I think I asked this on the tour. Funding for this enormous project, where's the funding coming from?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So the way Metropolitan works is our member agencies, we charge rates to our member agencies when we sell water. And those rates cover the cost of us doing business. So the cost of this new water would be covered by our rates. However, so that's the way this project will be paid for. And then our member agencies will pass that cost on to their customers, and that's that's how the project is paid for. With this project, some of the other things that we are doing to help reduce the costs is we're going heavily after grant funds. So we lobbied, or we spoke, we testified, I guess that's the word to use. We testified to Congress a couple years ago, or a year ago, maybe it's been, before the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act was passed. And so now the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act has funding available for large-scale recycled water programs like this. So that's $450 million in funding available that we would be applying for this project. The state has a surplus in its budget. We are also asking for a grant program like that on the state side as well. And so the governor's supposed to come out with a new budget in June. And so we're keeping our fingers crossed that there will be funding available from the state budget as well. There is funding available right now, but our project is such a large scale program. We're just looking for additional funds that could be available for projects like this that really impact the region rather than localized projects. And then we have partnership funds. So LACSD is contributing significant money towards the environmental planning phase of this program, millions of dollars. There's agencies along the Colorado River. So that's the Southern Nevada Water Authority, the Arizona Department of Water Resources, and there's one more, Arizona, it's going to come to me later, but another Arizona agency that are also providing funds for the project during this environmental planning phase. And what their hopes are, and what our hopes are, is that if they help support the construction of this project, then some of that water on the Colorado River we would use less of, and that could provide more water for them and in the river.
Okay, thank you so very much. Both you and Mr. Hewitt, great presentation. Questions, commissioners, if you have any comments?
I will just very briefly, before we close this matter per the Brown Act, make sure that there are no non-commissioner public comments that have been submitted or are requested for discussing on this presentation.
Thank you. Jessica, no request for, okay, thank you very much. Okay, any questions? Yes, sir, Mr. Coombs.
My question is regarding desalination. This is another way to gain drinking water from the ocean and the salt water. Could you speak to that, and how are you planning to incorporate it in your philosophy or whatever? Are you doing any? I know West Basin is doing it. I'd like to know if you're doing it. How are you doing? What are you doing about that issue?
Yeah, so just a little, desalination is, definitely a way of gaining another water resource for our region. This project does not include any desalination. We're not using ocean water at all for this project. Desalinated water is a little bit more expensive because it takes more energy to take all that salt out. Similar technology is used to what we're using, but there's just more salt to be taken out. So it does end up being at a higher cost than this supply of water that we're using. There are other agencies in California that are looking at desal or have implemented desal projects. So San Diego has implemented one successfully. It's located in the city of Carlsbad. And it is a solution that people do use, depending, it depends on where you are. If you're next to the ocean, sometimes it's more viable than if you're further away. But yeah, it's not part of this project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir, Ms. Polito.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, first, thank you, Ms. Soni, for this very dynamic presentation. I'm impressed and I like what I'm hearing. Thank God that we're doing this now during this conservation and drought time that we're engulfed in. I have a couple things I'd like to comment on, if I could, real quickly, because time of is wasting. The water credits that we should be getting for Carson, and this should be documented for the record. And we
Commissioner Paluda, you've muted yourself. Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me? All right.
Yes.
So I want to say thank you for the presentation, Ms. Soni, and of course, it's very dynamic. My couple questions are, one, that, because of the the pressure that we're in with the drought right now for all of the, state of California and the earth, can we get our water credits, water recycling credits? Because the plant's gonna be at our site in our city. And I'm not sure if this water is just gonna be utilized just for city of Carson, or if it's gonna be utilized for the general region, and they'll be paying you guys, but who's gonna pay us for our plant here that, it's on our property here in the city of Carson? Do we get any amenities, or will we get anything for that? Will there be some funding coming back to us, some taxpayer dollars that will come back and generate, we could use for other projects or for expansion of this? Because this is great. I like, there's no seawater, no ocean involved, but it's something that we're going to bring it up. City council, as environmentalists that we all are here, we believe in Mother Earth and preserving it. We're going to be carrying the heavy water, the heavy load, if you will, no pun intended, for these projects. How much money or funds will actually, water credits, I'll just use water credits because water is going to become gold in the next 10, 20 years. How much will that water that we're, going to spread throughout this region, again, one more time, if that's clearer, will we get back to us as a city? Has anybody thought about that through NWD or through our elected officials, state, federal, as well as local? Has anybody brought that to your attention, that we should be getting some type of funding, remedy, or, if you will, credits for the usage of our water for our good citizens? Maybe we don't have to pay as much water for our bills. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, so the Joint Water Pollution Control Plant is also a regional facility. It's taking in wastewater from throughout LA County. And then this project will also take that water and send it back into the county. We are working closely with the city, with Eliza Jane, and with city staff to as we're developing the program to talk about how we do this in cooperation with the city of Carson. So we're still very early in the planning phases on that, but it is something that we are working on together.
So you'll take that in consideration back, that we would like to see some type of water credits back to our city, or rebate, or something that's going to benefit our city for being the plant holding it and stuff. And then I have a second question.
Yeah, and we're a public agency, we're a public agency, so there are certain ways that we have to operate. And so, when we do a project, there's a certain way we operate. So within how we do business, within how we're constructing this project, we are working closely with the city of Carson in terms of how water, giving water to one community versus another. We give water to our member agencies, and then from there, they in turn, they give it to their retail agencies. So we are working with our member agencies on this project.
Okay, so just lastly, real quick,
Real brief,
is there
sir,
going to be
please.
any environmental impacts, like when the EIR comes down, anything that could be possibly any type of pollution from this project to our city?
So that's something that we're in the environmental planning phase right now. That's the start of our phase. So when that notice of preparation comes out, Commissioner Polito, we start talking about the project, we start doing our scoping. So we ask for input from the community about what should we be considering as we develop these environmental documents. We would love to hear from you on that. And then, yes, we will be doing that full environmental analysis and then expect to come out with a draft environmental impact report next year. So that will all be done. You will have the opportunity to review all of those. And I said I would put everything in the chat, and I realized there's no chat in here. So maybe, I don't know, Jessica, can I send you a copy of the presentation in my email? Okay, great.
Yeah, all information, then I'll forward to all the commissioners. So if they have any questions, I can
Okay.
do
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I'll do the same. I'll send you a copy of my
Yeah.
presentation. So.
Okay.
If there are no more questions, thank you both so much, Sony and Mr. Hewitt. Thank you so very, very much, and appreciate it. And sounds like a very, very exciting project, and certainly something that we need and will benefit from in the upcoming years. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
And our commissioner will be looking forward to working with you with that EIR. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and have a great night.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, enjoy your evening. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, but stay safe, please do.
Thank you.
Okay, we've discussed item 5. There's item number 5, public oral communication.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, before we go to item 5, There is an item that didn't get on the agenda before we get public comments. I would like to make a motion to put some item on the agenda. I called in Wednesday and tried to get it on, and the agenda comes out late Thursday. It did not get on. So I would like to try for a 2/3 majority of commissioners to get this item on the agenda.
Let me make a comment, Mr. Combs. First of all, I just got an issue with individual members calling staff and asking for things to be done. I don't care who the chair is in terms of process and some simplicity to it. It needs to go through the chair as opposed to just calling up and
Right.
asking the work.
So,
be done.
except we don't
I'm
have
not finished, sir. I'm not finished. So in the future, I'm gonna ask that, first of all, that all of it needs to come in to whoever the chair is. And if you need my number, my email is available. Secondarily, when we do these things, we need to be professional in our interactions with staff, period. So and I don't know, but I just demand that we be professional. Now you can talk, sir.
First of all, none of us were ever given your number or how to contact you. Only on this past Monday, when I asked, why we don't have that, did I get it from staff? So
I'll take care of that right now. Jessica, can you please email us
she
all
did send.
each other's contact number? And I did call you today, sir, about 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, she did give it to me, like I said, but after the agenda was already done. So thank you, Jessica. I have it now. So I'd like to bring up the item. The item is, we want to do signs. This was at the AB 617 meeting for no no idling mostly by trucks. They're idling in warehouses, they're queuing, they're doing all kinds of stuff. Some of them at schools, et cetera, So the CARB and AQMD and others, mostly CARB, is providing no idling signs that the city can put up. And the reason I'd like it on today's agenda is I'd like to bring it up at the council meeting, which is next Tuesday. And I'm going to do it either way, but I'd like to put it on our agenda so that, unlike in past cases, the Environmental Commission can comment or do something on this issue. So I make a motion that we add to the agenda idling signs, the idling sign issue, and have Rowena Soul, who is here, speak on it. Otherwise, she will speak at communication oral. But so I'm making a motion that we.
Well, I have a question to ask first.
I'll second that motion.
Well,
We
okay,
ask the
so-
question. You gotta do a second, then you could go into discussion. So I'll second that motion.
And I would like to also raise some points of orders myself.
Well, before we do that, the motion made by Mr. Coons and seconded by Mr. Bolito now is open for discussion. Attorney Lehman, please.
Okay, so in order to add an urgency item onto the agenda, there are several findings that need to be made. By 2/3 vote of the body sitting. Now, if we have less than 2/3 of the body, then it needs to be a unanimous vote to find these to make these urgency findings. The urgency findings are that the event giving rise to the addition to the agenda came up after the posting of the agenda. Number two, that the item that came up after the posting of the agenda is of such an urgency that it is not something that can be carried on to a future meeting or to a next regular meeting. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am, I thoroughly understand. And well, in this particular situation, it was not agendized, and I wish we had not moved forward without it being on the agenda, period. It should have been agendized.
Mr. Chair, can I make a substitute motion?
We're in discussion now, but I guess you have to accept your substitution. But I wish, because when I talked to staff this morning, my recommendation is to have Ms. Sewell agendize on the next meeting, as opposed to this, because we already had a lengthy presentation. But then to move forward like this, I just have issues with it without getting some kind of approval.
Well,
Any more
that's why we're,
comments?
yeah, that's why, under discussion, Mr. Chair, that's why we're discussing it right now, because it is urgent from what I'm hearing from Mr. Coons. And I myself believe, I know Robina will speak at oral communications regardless for her 3 minutes, and maybe we can give her a couple extra minutes from our own oral communication time, the commissioners, if that's okay. If Lana doesn't strike that down as a legal matter. I just want to say that I don't want to be having a staff-driven agenda every time we have an agenda. We have to have a commissioners-driven agenda, Mr. Chair. We don't have to depend on staff to drive where we're going and what we're doing, okay? So I know you depend heavily on them, and I respect that. That's your opinion as a chair, but we as commissioners have the right to bring up not only urgent matters, but to bring up things that we've talked about for the last 3 months that have not been addressed yet. And I can give you the for examples, but I'm not gonna waste your time. You can see it on future agenda items. They're all there listed. And, I know they're working on it. I know things are a little tight right now because of our lady, Miss Rita is, out on sick leave or medical leave. And I hope she gets better quickly. As a matter of courtesy, we have that. But I just want you to know, I do not appreciate when you start saying you have to go through me, or you have to say, we could call the staff ourselves. I asked for this whole staff, just for last point before I finish. I asked for through Eliza James or through Rita, for a list of all the commissioners' names, to be courtesy, phone numbers and emails, and that we can, and we know the Brown Act, we know all that, so we can communicate with one another. We can meet each other, and that we're not seeing each other. At least we could call each other. And I was told, well, we don't want anybody to illegal start making meetings or talk to too many people. We're not doing forums. We're just meeting with folks, with other commissioners like yourself and I. We had a good time when we went to that tour. It's nothing wrong with one another sharing an opinion or two. So
Yes,
I want
sir.
you to I just want you to be very clear that staff has never given me the number. You just barely gave me your number today, for example. I said you could give my number to anybody you want.
Sir, there's no way you're going to convince me that you couldn't call staff and get my contact number. You're not going to sit there and
No,
scream.
I'm not. I'm telling you, I didn't get it. They said no, they would not give it to me at the time. I asked for a list. I've always had a list of commissioners for the last 30 years for your FYI. So don't tell me there's no way. If they drag their feet and they get a deaf ear to doing it, then I got time. Wait. I have the floor.
Wait, no, wait.
And I get upset because you have to support your commissioners. You have to support your community. Yes, I do. I have every right.
You don't have a right.
First Amendment right. That's your opinion.
Well, not while I'm chair, you're not going to do
Well,
it.
don't interrupt me. When I have the floor, give me the courtesy. I don't interrupt you.
Okay, you've had your 2 minutes, sir.
Okay, well, you know where I'm at now, so let's not go there.
Well, you know where I am too.
Yeah, well.
But this is not, wait a minute, this is not a staff-driven agenda.
Yes, it is.
We talk about, well, that's your opinion. We talk
Correct.
about it. We recommend what's going to go on the agenda. I talk to staff, whatever's available for us to do and get it done in a timely manner. That's what goes on the agenda, period.
I don't agree.
Well,
Period.
too bad. Too bad.
That's too bad for you too.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Or any more discussions?
So the motion
Yeah.
on the floor is to add an item to the agenda, and this has to do with, as I understand it, school or some sort of trucking queuing.
Was there
Signs, monitoring.
signs preventing
Idling,
truck idling?
And this is an issue that only came up after the agenda was posted.
no,
Yes.
it came up
Why?
the day before and she refused. She did not post it,
Okay.
but essentially I'm bringing it up now because she didn't post it.
What is,
So in
what-
a way, yes. but
from
in
a
way,
legal
no.
from a legal perspective, ma'am, and whatever the charter says, what is urgency as it relates to commission items or items going on the agenda? What
So
is considered
urgency means that it's an issue that is of an immediate need, either due to some sort of hard deadline. Sometimes we run across that in the case of grant funding issues, or it's an immediate need in terms of an immediate threat to public health and safety and welfare. And we either need a 2/3 vote of the body, and I may have to pull this up again, or if we have less than 2/3 of the body sitting on the commission, we need a unanimous vote to add it to the agenda. Now, I also hear that Commissioner Hobson was proposing a substitute motion. I did not hear at this point in time a second on that, but I don't know what her substitute motion was.
Okay, let me say this, Ms. Sewell, good evening.
Good evening.
First of all, you know, I'm certainly very supportive, I'm sure we all are, of what you're here to present, but I just wish you had not been, you know, alerted prior to this being agendized in the proper fashion and you brought into this discussion, because it's really not fair to you to listen to our internal disagreements, if you will. So I do apologize for that.
Oh, no, you don't need to, Honorable Chair and Honorable
But
Commissioner.
anyway, I'll ask Miss, oh, I'm sorry, but there was a substitute motion being offered. Ms. Hobson,
My motion is to add this to the next agenda. To the next meeting's agenda.
so there's a motion on the floor. I guess they'd have to accept your substitution.
You need a second for a substitute motion. You take the vote on the
that motion.
It's a second, there's a second to the motion by Mr. Watkins. So the next amendment would be, we ask, I guess we vote on each one. Am I correct, Ms. Lehman?
You start with a substitute motion.
Okay, substitute motion is that we table this issue until the next board meeting.
I think you got discussion. Mr. Coons has his hand up.
Go ahead, sir.
I do not want this because she will be presenting at the council meeting next time. So there's no reason for us to do it next time, except for your information. Watch the council meeting. She will be presenting there and getting the council approval to do this. Now, the reason I'd like this in and see it as an urgency is this is a problem. Pollution and truck idling is a problem. And it's an urgent problem that should have been put in if our staff, and I'm upset with the staff because they don't do that. They didn't do it when Mr. Polito was the chair and when I was acting chair. What the chair said didn't matter then, and now it seems to matter because you're the chair.
That's not true, Mr. Coons, but I tell you what.
It is.
That is true.
Well, that's your opinion, sir.
So what I do
let's
is
vote
call for the question. I'm
the chair. I'm getting ready to call for the question,
supporting
sir.
the substitute motion.
Okay, you're not supporting it.
No,
Don't vote for it.
There's no reason to bring it back.
Don't
We'll
vote
have a
for it then.
solution by that time.
I'm gonna call
Thank
for,
you.
I'm gonna call for a vote on the substitute motion first. All in favor, does everybody understand the substitute motion?
So the substitute motion essentially would cancel the original motion, adding an urgency item to the agenda based on the findings that it's not urgent because it can be taken at a next meeting. That is my understanding of the substitute motion.
And that's correct. Okay, call for the vote. Can we have a roll call, Jessica, please?
Yes. Commissioner Watkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillian Hobson,
Yes.
Commissioner Rick Polito,
No,
Commissioner William Coons,
No,
Commissioner Roy Love,
All abstaining.
Commissioner Brianna Fonteno. I think she left because I don't
No,
see
she's here.
her.
She's there.
are you talking about Villapando?
No, Fonteno, our new commissioner.
Oh, the new one.
No, she wasn't.
She was here, but I guess
Oh, okay.
abstain. And alternate Celia Valapando.
No.
Okay, so we have 3 yeses, 3 nos, and 2 abstentions.
so motion fails.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, the next item we'll vote on.
No.
Beg your pardon?
Now we go to the original motion.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I just want to make sure, okay.
Thank you. Okay, the original motion on the floor was to
add an urgency
add an
item.
urgency item to the agenda.
And to make the urgency finding, okay, so staff, do we have 2/3 of the commission on the quorum? I think we do, correct? It's hard for me to tell because I keep seeing people dropping on and off.
Me too. So for right now, since Commissioner Fontano has left, we now have 3 absences.
But we have 8 people here, right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
It would be 7 now.
6, 7.
All right, so
No, I'm sorry.
No, you have 8. You just did a
6.
motion. 3 yeses, 3 noes, and 2 abstentions. That's 8 votes.
Yes.
Just a minute ago, I
The
heard
other
that.
person was not here.
She's not here. Yeah, Brianna's not here, so it doesn't
Yeah.
technically count as abstention because she's not here. So I don't know what to do
it's
in
a
this
vacancy. It's a
vacancy at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, because so she left, so.
Okay, so we need a 2/3 vote of the members of the body present
Present now.
to pass a motion making the following findings. That 1, this issue is an issue that purely came up after the agenda was posted. 2, that it is an issue of such urgency that it cannot be pushed to a future meeting or a regular meeting without detriment to public health, safety, welfare, or other sort of hard deadlines. Again, I really usually only do this when we're dealing with like a grant, like federal or state grant deadlines, where it's really clear what the deadlines are. Those are the findings that need to be made.
Thank you. Yes,
Okay.
sir. Mr. Combs, you have a question?
So
Comment?
the hard deadline here is the city council meets Tuesday of next week. Therefore, we need to, as an advise and consent commission, we need to advise them that they need to adopt this thing and post these signs. And whatever that takes. If we don't do it today, we will not be an advisory to the council. Therefore, that is a hard deadline. The council meets next Tuesday. If it's not on the agenda, I'm going to try to get it on the agenda, but the agenda is not released yet. So if we do not, if we put it on the agenda, what does that mean? We can then advise them what to do. If we don't, we can't advise them because it's not an agenda item. Okay, so that's my position.
Okay, a fair point. I think that is a fair point in terms of having a hard deadline in terms of actions to be taken. Is this an issue that arose prior to or after the agenda being posted? Because that's your second major finding.
It arrived at the time that it was being drafted, and it was not put in. Therefore, the answer is yes to that. I'm bringing it up now because it was not accepted.
Let me ask
by
staff,
the
when was
staff.
it when was the item posted, actually posted, the date of the posting?
City
It's not
clerks.
posted. The
Wait,
item
hold
was
on.
recommended on Wednesday afternoon to Jessica. She gave it to Rita and whoever else and the chair, and nothing got returned to her saying one way or the other. So there was no posting of it on the agenda due to the fact that the chair did not respond and Rita did not respond. She's apparently medical, but it was a last minute try to get it posted. I realize that. That's why it really came out at the same time. It wasn't, but it wasn't done. Therefore, now is the first time people are aware of the reason and so forth of doing it. So it meets that criteria, but just barely.
You've heard arguments on one side. If anybody else has, I think you just open it to discussion at this point and let you guys take a vote.
Thank you. All for the question.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I know that Mr. Coons is trying to get this on the agenda, the next week meeting, but however, we will have another meeting. And could this go before the council for the July meeting?
Mr. Coons?
Well, I'm going to try to get it on this, not
But I'm
only.
asking, can it go on July?
But if you
I'm
don't
going
get
to
it
try to
on,
get it on the first meeting in June, which is Tuesday, and on the second meeting in June, which is 2 weeks later. So I'm going to try that. If you want to put it on July, let's see what happens in June. But if, you know, because we
But I'm
wanted to,
saying we could discuss it at our next meeting and then it
you
goes
can,
before
but
the
I don't want
council.
to. That's why I voted no. I wanted to discuss it at this meeting. Thank you.
any more comments, discussions?
Yeah, I
I'll call
think,
for,
I'm
go
just gonna
ahead.
say real quick, I think, you know, it's only fair and reasonable to ask that, you know, Ms. Robina's been waiting this time patiently. I think we can give her courtesy of, I'm not sure how long her presentation would be, 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
No, probably 2 minutes.
2
honestly.
minutes.
Yeah.
So I would say with that, thank you, Ms. Robina, that would be enough for us, at least take the courtesy, let her speak up, and then we could make a, you know, a concerned, educated, you know, decision on where we're going to go with this. But thank you for that, and I hope we will let her speak tonight.
We will, yes, sir. There's a place on the agenda for it, yes.
Well, right now, as an urgency item that's called, you call for the question, let's
I'll
vote.
call for the question. Jessica, can you call for? a
And
roll
let
call
me,
vote, please?
and just for me to be really clear, sorry, let me put my video back on here. Because I have to switch back between my cloud and just be really clear. Under the Brown Act, what we're looking at is Government Code Section 54954.2 B2, which says that notwithstanding the agenda requirements of the Brown Act, the legislative body may take action on items of business not appearing on the posted agenda. If you meet the following findings upon a determination by a 2/3 vote of the members of the legislative body present, or if less than 2/3 of the members are present, a unanimous vote, that there is a need to take immediate action and that the need for the action came to the attention of the local agency after the agenda posting.
Okay,
That's all I have. Just to be clear, just making the record clear.
thank you. Jessica, can we do a roll call vote on the question, please?
Yes. Commissioner Watkins,
No.
Commissioner Taylor,
No.
Commissioner Hobson,
No,
Commissioner Polito,
Yes,
Commissioner Coons,
Yes,
Commissioner Love,
Abstain.
and alternate Celia Valapando.
Abstain,
Yes,
abstain.
abstain. Okay, so I have
So we
three.
we do not have a 2/3 vote
No,
to
we
add.
don't. All right, thank you. And perhaps we can wait till comments, but anyway, let's move forward because it's getting late. Next item on the consent calendar, approval of the minutes from May 4th.
excuse me, Mr. Chair. Public oral communications is next. And
Aye.
Robina can then speak for that. Thank you.
Sir. Well, thank you for the recommendation, but we're moving forward. Public and oral communications, there are none. Consent agenda, next item is.
No,
approval of
there
minutes.
is public oral communication.
No,
Robina,
Robina's
are you
speaking
going to speak on behalf of the public oral communication?
I would like to, Honorable Chair, if possible, and Commissioner.
You know what, Mr. I was gonna wait till item number 8 and let you speak on a new business since there is none. okay? And that's just a couple items away. I want to get through our agenda. So that's what we'll do.
But this is oral communication time. She would like to speak. Why can't she speak now?
Because I'm going through the agenda. I'm allowing her a place to speak under new business since we're going to have to discuss it. So that's what we'll do, sir. Thank you.
I don't agree.
Well, don't agree.
Yeah, but what's next on the agenda? Mr. Coon just said,
Approval of minutes, sir.
and oral, didn't you say Bill, oral communication?
That's not what I said. I said.
No, not you. I'm asking Commissioner Coons.
Mr. Chair, if you're putting it under new business, that makes it an agenda item.
I am fine with it being under oral communication.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, let's do this. Let's get past this. Ms. Wu, go ahead, ma'am, please. 5 minutes, please, no more.
No, much less,
Thank you.
Honorable Chair and
Thank
Commissioners. My name is Rabina Sewell. I'm the Executive Director of California Safe Schools. We're a children's environmental health and environmental justice coalition that was founded in 1998, and we're going into our 25th anniversary. The city of Carson and the residents are very dear to me. I've worked with the community since our organization was founded. And I'd like to say hello, as I have earlier, to Mr. Polito and Mr. Coons and the Philippine Action Group and other residents that we work closely with. We were the recipients, our organization, California Safe Schools, of a California Air Resources Board Supplemental Environmental Projects Program. And in what we've done is we're working with communities in Wilmington, Los Angeles, Torrance, West Carson, also in Maywood and Southgate. And we've already placed more than 50 no idling signs. And these signs are installed where heavy duty truck and bus idling occurs near schools and residents. It's done in order to protect children and school staff from further idling. And we do not parachute into communities. We work closely with commissioners like yourself, with residents, with the school district, with the board member at LA Unified, and city council and elected officials to identify areas that may reduce these emissions of diesel, which are known to create asthma and other health impacts. And so we just appreciate this time this evening and graciously appreciate it, Chair Taylor, for you allowing me to just share. That's what we're here for. We hope we can all work together. I think it's very encouraging to know that there is an environmental commission for the city of Carson. And thank you for the time.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Mr. Polito.
Question, real quick question. Thank you, Rubino, for the quick synopsis. I know it's only a snapshot, but if we okay this from our end, giving you your blessings or passing it on to City Council in our recommendations tonight, will you tell us, is there any cost would this be all free of charge?
Yes.
Or were there any charges to the city or residents or anything that we will have to incur as far as funding goes?
No, there will not be. And the enforcement is done by cooperation between the California Air Resources Board and South Coast Air Quality. If there are within your community law officers who want to assist in the enforcement, that's something that can come through the discussion. But the identification of sites really is done by the community residents, elected officials, and so forth, not through me. I'm simply a conduit to help you in any way.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
very
you
much.
so much.
Ms. Whitman, I need to ask you a question.
And I just want to be careful that this is not an item on the agenda.
Item on the agenda,
Public comment, we need to, you are allowed to do brief responses, emphasis on brief
Okay.
responses. And yes, you can ask some brief questions, but this should not devolve into a discussion or deliberation.
Thank you very much. I just have a question. I mean, obviously the program is great and would work, but would this fall under the auspices of Public Works in the city of Carson?
Yes, I mean, Public Works needs to work with CARB and AQMD. They're the ones ultimately that make the decisions about where the placement. That I'm very impressed with that question, Chairman, because it's very important that the signs are not placed in areas that interfere with pre-existing signs. So it does take a cooperative effort between all parties.
Okay, all right. Yes, sir.
I have a quick question. The signs can be placed near warehouses as well as schools. Secondly, it's my understanding there's two things has to be done. We have to check the size of the sign with Public Works doing it, I guess. And then the second thing is we have to consider where to place them. Thank you.
Anyone else? Comments? Ms. Sewell, is that all you have, ma'am?
That's all. Thank you so very
And
much.
thank you again. My apologies.
No, you do
My
not need
apologies.
to apologize. I'm so happy that you're able to have these discussions openly and that you have a great group of people that want to do the best for the environment and your community.
Thank you. And maybe perhaps
Thank
we
you.
can invite you back at a later meeting and we can do a more
Oh, it's
extensive
great.
presentation.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you
so
very
very much.
Thank
Good
you,
evening.
ma'am.
Thank
Good
you.
evening. Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda, item number 6, the consent calendar. The only thing under that is approval of the minutes from May 4th. Would you please review those minutes? If there's any additions, deletions, we can let Jessica know.
I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Okay, it's been moved that the minutes be accepted. The minutes of May 4th be accepted.
I second.
Is there a second?
I second.
Dr. Villapando, thank you. Discussion. Any changes anybody sees? Yes, sir. You're muted, sir.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that C. Fawcett Coalition for Safe Environment would like to do a presentation. I want for the record that we asked for this month, but Mr. Marcus said he could do it in July. So I want to make sure that that's correctly put in the minutes that we'd like to get that presentation on top. The 157 tour.
Sir. We're on
These
a
are
whole-
part of the minutes. These are part of the minutes. I asked for a 157-acre tour in my comments. And it's there saying it very clearly that this was mentioned, but I want to know when this will be agendized and when we get to that part. And I want it clear for the minutes because otherwise the minutes aren't clear to me. Okay, and a CRA audit and update. I still haven't heard or seen any report on this August body that we will be doing agendized item on the CRA and
But Mr. Polito, we're discussing the contents of the minutes.
That's
Why don't
right.
you wait till we get to the section where we can discuss future agenda items? Right?
But these were future agendized items 2 months ago and then last month ago. And that's why I'm saying it's staff driven because I don't see these agendized items coming up to the agenda. And that's part of the minutes. I said this, I'm saying it again now very clearly. Please put it in the minutes so that I can show record that I'm not content with the way the minutes in general are pretty good. They're not bad, but they're missing key components. And I don't know if Eliza James.
Okay, what corrections do you want put in here, sir?
I just told you, I want the correction that I asked for 157 acres tour for the last 2 months.
But to be on the agenda, right? And
no,
to be on the agenda, you're absolutely right. And the CRA audit to be on the agenda. They're not on there yet. Let me say it. First
When
of
are we
all,
going to put it on there? That's my question.
first of all, the CRA, you've been told this before, that CRA audit, that's a closed session item, sir. We can't discuss that.
It's a lawsuit, but we can get a general PowerPoint from Mr. Roberts.
I don't think so, sir. I don't think so. That's
we
not
can find
my
out.
understanding.
Well, that's why I want clarity. I want it on the agenda.
Let's do this. Let's deal with the minutes, sir.
Okay, I think they're not completely. They're not complete.
Okay. Anybody else have any issues?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a listing here that's included with the minutes that give us all the items that were listed for the future agendas.
Yeah.
They're listed here.
Yeah, but when are we gonna put them on the agenda? That's my correction to the minutes. That's a good point. That's what I'm trying to say.
But we have one of the items that's listed on the agenda tonight. We had a
Yep.
presentation. We can't work with all of them every week.
Agreed. But I mean, what are our priorities? I thought our priorities was the tour, the trees, and the truck idling. I think we got to the
Sir.
truck idling only because of Mr. Coons, but I'm just trying to get my priorities here corrected so I know
Sir.
when we're gonna be putting them on. the
Sir,
agenda.
there's 2 hours, there's channel update. We've done that, right? We're waiting
Correct.
for Mr. Williams from the West Basin Water District, whenever staff can get that arranged and scheduled. The Water District, we did that tonight. We can only do so much at each meeting, sir.
I agree.
Period. Period. So as the items come up and people become available and we can schedule and staff does their research that they need to do, then we'll add the agenda items. I don't have any problem with it.
I'm just thinking we're dragging our feet a little bit. I like to
Okay,
move a little
well,
faster.
you think that, sir. Well, I'll take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, call for a motion on the minutes approval, please.
Actually, this is a motion for the approval of the consent calendar
Consent calendar, I'm sorry.
in totality.
Is there a motion for to move the consent calendar?
So moved.
Is it moved by Ms. Coons? Is there a second?
Second. None.
Okay, it's been a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call vote,
Roll
please.
call vote. Okay.
Go ahead.
Let's see. Commissioner Watkins, Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
Commissioner Hobson,
Aye.
Commissioner Polito,
No,
Commissioner Coons,
Yes.
Commissioner Love,
Aye.
alternate Valapondo.
Yes.
A motion carries.
Thank you very much. Next, item number 7, continue unfinished business. Fireworks letter update. I guess unfortunately it wasn't included in your package, but I think we have a copy of it. Can we-
I'm going to share my screen, so let me know if you guys
Okay.
could see it. I do have the letter.
And it was sent to David Roberts, and my understanding is he did send that out to
Let's see.
the council.
Thank you.
Um,
Okay, we
Here's
can
the
show the letter if we
letter.
can.
Share. Are you guys able to see it?
Okay.
So let me try to. Oh, that's too small or not.
Oh.
It's a little bigger, please.
Yes, sorry. Looks bigger on my screen, so. Is that better?
Okay, that's good for me, but I don't know what the rest of the commissioners think.
Do you see?
I can also send this via email to you guys separately at the end of
Please.
this meeting. Yes. Yeah, sorry, it wasn't included in the packet. So I'm gonna scroll down just a little bit. That's a little bit more.
Okay, I think we're probably ready to go to page 2. Nobody
Page 2?
objects.
Okay,
yeah,
you're good.
Okay.
And then this is just the end
Oh, okay.
part of it. It's just says who voted. And
Thank you
that's-
very
that's the
much.
end of the letter. I'll send it to you guys at the end of the meeting.
Any comment? Go ahead, Mr. Polito.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. My question, Eliza, you said the letter was sent to our city manager. What date was that sent to him? And did he give any response? He's gonna send to the city council, I'm assuming, in their package for this meeting coming up next Tuesday.
My understanding is he's already sent it to him.
Any feedback or anything yet?
No, I mean, no.
So when did you send it to him? Last week?
Yeah, it was last week.
Okay, that's important.
Oh, okay. I have a comment. At the last meeting, we were discussing fines. And there was the city of, I received some information myself and Ms. Hobson brought it to my attention. Rancho Palos Verdes, the city of Rancho Palos Verdes passed a motion in one of their city council meetings to increase the fines on the graduated scale up to $7,500. Now, my question is that since this is a city ordinance, isn't there a cap on the amount of fines, Ms. Lehman?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there's a difference between what RPV did, and thank you, by the way, for forewarning me of this question coming up. We actually represent Rancho Palos Verdes.
Oh, okay.
The fines that they imposed in Rancho Palos Verdes are administrative fines. They are not criminal fines. They are administrative only. So typically those, and as I understand it, and I got sort of a late warning of this issue coming up, they would typically be imposed by or cited by city code enforcement personnel, as opposed to, say, the sheriff's department. There are definite caps for criminal penalties, either infractions or misdemeanors. There are caps on how much we can impose on that. Now, in order to elevate the administrative fines, like we did in Rancho Palos Verdes, they went out, they did a study, they had that looked at the number of high fire risk areas that they have in their city. And you have to make a reasonable nexus, a rational basis as between what the fine levels are and what the risk is. So it's not a simple process. Yes, they are higher than the fines that we have. We can start that process, but it is not as simple as just pulling a number out of the air and saying, oh, we're going to impose this as a fine. There actually needs to be a rational basis study that goes behind it in order to make it enforceable. Does that make sense?
Me, it does. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Is Rancho Palos Verdes a charter city or a general law city?
Ooh.
I'm sorry, never mind.
Oh.
Never mind. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that makes a difference or not. I mean, does it?
I don't think I do not think it makes a difference. It does not make a difference when you're imposing penalties on private citizens. You still need to have that rational basis. You also have the collection problem. So I mean, you could establish this rational basis for charging higher administrative citations, not criminal, But administrative citations, you could develop a rational basis to do that. But some of our cities have been running into some problems with collecting that amount. People just don't pay it. And at the end of the day, the city ends up spending more to try to collect the penalties that are imposed than the penalties themselves actually would provide the city.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions? One last question, and we can. The city's council ad hoc committee on fireworks. How does that operate? Or is it still operating? Is it still in vogue? Jessica, you may know.
It's not it is not a charter city, by the way.
Okay, thank you.
Just following up on it.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, say question one more time.
Oh, the ad hoc, are you familiar with the council ad hoc committee on fireworks?
No, I'm not familiar.
Okay.
I don't
All
know,
right.
sorry.
Okay. All right. Maybe somebody is. Is anyone? Okay. All right. I'm fine. Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments about the letter?
I have kind of a question more than a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, we've got it in the title of the letter that we're addressing both legal, safe and sane fireworks and the illegal, but other than the reference to the ad hoc committee, it doesn't seem like we're making a recommendation as far as when we could more closely consider the legal ones and stopping the sale of the safe and sane fireworks.
Well, I don't know. I would think in this present form, it says, subject to the council to consider additional measures to illegal fireworks, but and the feasibility of discussing safe and sane fireworks. So I'm hoping that the subject line is explanatory.
Look, I was just wondering because it seems like, I mean, we're leaning pretty heavily on the illegal ones, but I'm just thinking it's like it could kind of get lost on them that we are also asking them to take a look at stopping the sale altogether. I don't know. I just.
Well, unfortunately, we may want to do a follow-up letter, but this is already in the hands of at least the city manager and obviously the city council already. It's there. So.
And I will add that to the extent that you're comparing Rancho Palos Verdes, they ban all fireworks.
Great.
Safe and sane and illegal.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a big difference.
Oh,
One day, maybe one day Carson will be like that too. But I like what you asked there, Commissioner, about the ad hoc, Mr. Chair, and we could probably follow up on that, the next, see how this 4th of July goes, all the cumulative impacts and all the fines and all the data that we're asking to be, to be collected and the monitoring systems. I think that the big one for me is having those air monitoring systems up to we could do right now, a ground level, where are we at right now with our PM, particulate matter, and then, this month, let's say, and then in July, right after the fireworks, how long it's going to go really high up. The pollution's going to get terrible for all of us. Our cars are going to need car washes, our houses, our lungs, everything's going to just go blow up unless our kids, especially respiratory. I like to see what the cumulative impact is at that monitoring level. If we can one day have that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Combs.
Okay, so don't expect too much this July 4th because May 30th, I had fireworks in my block and they were big, loud ones in the air, illegal ones. So if I've got a May 30th, July 4th is going to be a big bang, I predict.
Yeah.
So whatever we can do as far as let's do it. And the second thing is on the safe and sane, if you go to that, I hope we're all going to get a copy of that letter we sent this time. But if you go to that lower paragraph, there was some guidance on safe and sane. I don't think we recommended, if I remember right, to get rid of them. We recommended training and more exposure of the correct use of them, et cetera, et cetera. That's what should have been in that letter. So I need to study that letter when I get a copy. It's in there though about safe and sane.
Educational, yeah.
Yeah, educational on that.
In the previous letter we sent a couple of years ago, we put in there about illegal fireworks, and my problem is with the city also grants block club parties and events during this time, and it just exacerbates the problem. People coming in from everywhere, and it's gotten a little better, but not much better. So anyway, let's see what happens with the letter. Hopefully they'll get back to us as soon as possible.
If not for this year, next year, whatever,
Absolutely.
hopefully. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes.
Just a quick FYI, just to let you know that unless a shelter has been designated no kill, most of the animal shelters, including Carson, are going on a killing spree. They are euthanizing healthy puppies and dogs of all ages. This is to clear space for all the dogs that they're going to be picking up for the 4th of July.
Mm. Didn't know that. Thanks for the information. Never knew that. Mm. Okay, we'll see what happens. But we put that information in there, and so the council can be aware of it. Let's hope they take it under consideration.
Right.
Take some positive action.
Okay.
All right, thank you. You can take that down, Jessica. All right. Let's see here. All right, next item. Item number 8, new business, none. Next one will be items 9. Commission request to add items to the agenda. There's an attached list. Who's first? Relative to what goes on in the priorities for next agenda.
You have a hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking
Mr.
down.
Chair.
I'm looking down. Mr. Coons, yes, sir.
So what made me so unhappy this time, as you saw, I was very unhappy, is the agenda. And again, this is probably staff more than you. Because the presentation we had tonight was the last thing, the lowest priority on the items for future agendas. We need to look at, and if not, the staff and chair doing the job we hope they'll do, we need to, let's vote as a commission on what we want to have on the next meeting agenda. How does that sound? And that is by Robert's Rules of Order. The commission should vote, can vote on what they want to see on the next agenda. Like citywide tree planting, and let's see what funds available, et cetera, et cetera. Again, Greg McDonald is the guy I like to, I've been calling, I can't get a hold of him, but I would like to see that on the agenda. But I would like to see us take 2, maybe 3 items, whatever we think we can do, and put it on the agenda definitely. If you want to put the truck queuing also on there.
If I remember correctly, sir, not to cut you off, but I don't think there's any priority to this list. All this has to be based upon availability, the ability to get the information, the staff to research and do the information. There's no priority to this. You made a comment about the item today, which I think is very important, that it was last on the list. I mean, I guess it's, for me, it's what's available for us to do that's relative to what our priorities are. I mean, to the agenda items.
Well, if you check the priority list, this list is pretty much close to what the highest priorities were. And it is last on the priority list. Maybe the staff can tell us what the priority of that one was, but I believe it was last. And my thing on truck queuing parking on Lomita, I'd like to reword that to idling parking of trucks, not just on Lomita, in the city, on Lomita, and everywhere else, or something like that. I like to reword that to make it cover what we talked about tonight, not queuing and parking. It was idling that's the biggest issue and polluting our city with trucks. And I could also add more groups to present about top issues. Jesse Marquez is there. Let's add Alicia Rivera from Communities for a Better Environment, CBE. And let's add the lady that was here tonight. Let's add Rubina Sewell from California Safe Schools. That's my recommendations. Thank you.
Any more recommendations? Mr. Polito. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just to reiterate and to reinforce what I concur with Mr. Coons, but I believe that the warehousing that has been approved by City Council for the 157 acres, it's long overdue that we have a commission tour like we did, you and I and the others now, for sanitation. We could see logistically with our own eyes, have somebody there give us a tour, and we can ask questions. Because I have a lot of questions that I'm gonna be asking, even though this passed, there's 2 other phases that haven't passed, and they may need more attention. And that's what we're the eyes and ears. We're supposed to be protecting our residents, and that's why I think it's so important that we have that 157 tour. I haven't been on that site for 20 years when it used to be Metro Mall when I was planning commissioner, and we gave tours to any public member that wanted it within the reason through buses. And if some people will remember this, just to see what the whole containment was and just to get a feel. I know it was a dump site. I know it's just all dirt out there in piles, but we want to see it for ourselves, for me to make some educated decisions on where we're going to go forward with the this new warehouse fiasco that has passed. The other thing I asked, that's number 1. Number 2 is that CRA. I asked very diligently that John Roberts, who gives
Raymond.
John Raymond, thank you, JR. He gives a good breakdown every month or every time they have a meeting with CRA, updates. Why can't we have a staff update? If Eliza can do it, great. If she can't do it, let's get, somebody that can give us a very, educated, informed, breakdown, what's going on with CRA. And the audit I asked for, because there's a lot of discrepancy of the funding there. That agency, redevelopment agency, that's money, that's our funding. We need to know what's coming in and what's going out and how it's being spent on the remediation. And, I'm not talking about the litigation. I'm not talking about, all the stuff that people are going to try to throw out there to stop it. I just want some basic, transparent information. Maybe our commissioner, she's on the CRA, maybe she can share with us her report once a month on what's going on with CRA that she can share. I know she can't share legal matters or stuff that's in closed session or whatever, that's a given. But there's stuff that's out there in the public. They do things all the time, and they pass motions and they spend money all the time. And now I hear it's broke. So I'd like to know where has all the CRA money gone in the last few years? That's public information. And I'd like to see the attorney to make sure that that's noted, that we are asking, I am asking as a commissioner for full audit and a full comprehensive report on what's going on there. And my last point is CFOS, the presentation. Mr. Marcus was expecting this month. I told him we were, I made an excuse that, our staff is down and Eliza's down a little bit over there in her office, but he was willing to come out in July or as soon as he'd like to give us a presentation on what's going on in the South Bay, and specifically in Carson, how it relates to us. So those are my 3 top ones. For the record, please put them down. And the trees, the beautification, the rest of them are all important. They all need to be on there. And I know we can only do so much at a night, but let's get to the ones that are more important to the community that I believe are pertinent at this time. Thank you. I'm complete.
Anyone, next person? Yes, ma'am.
As far as the CRA, I believe, well, I know that anyone can watch the meeting, and not only that, for any information that you need, that's public information, you can always go back and review the tape. So there's no reason for you to say that you're not getting that information from me when it's available.
I agree with you.
I believe that recently, it was a few months ago, that there was an invitation given to the environmental commission to go over and take the tour of the 157 acres. I took the tour. There was an invitation given.
I wasn't on the commission at that time, Commissioner. I would have taken it in a minute. Thank you for bringing that up. Let's do it again this early summer. Let's say this month. I would like to do it respectfully now this month or the latest early July. And I like what you just said. You can look at the videos, but why can't we have as part of the staff information, you know, like I asked before, report Eliza or Mr. Raymond come in and give us a regular report on CRA to our regarding to our environmental commission. Why can't that be something that we could have there on a quarterly? And I asked that for you before to give a report, just a 5 minute or 3 minute from your end.
Can I ask a question?
I would suggest that you watch the video.
And
I don't
maybe Ms.
agree.
Lehman, we discussed this before. We discussed it several times. It's my understanding that this is something that's discussed in closed session.
Not all of it, sir.
Yes.
Beg pardon? You say yes,
Anything
and
that
you say
isn't,
no.
you can view it.
Let's
Miss,
discuss in closed
City
session,
Attorney,
right?
City Attorney, can we
Yes,
have a
ma'am,
report?
please.
City Attorney,
Can you make a comment on that, please?
yeah, can we do a report once in a while from to our commission here? Is that possible? Is that feasible?
I do agree that JR would probably be the best person to give that report. It is not going to get into a lot, it's not going to get into audit or financial details. Those details are currently under litigation. We are actually in appeal right now with the 3rd district. We have a Court of Appeal case pending. So this is not just a matter that's been discussed in closed session. It is a matter that is in pending litigation.
Thank you.
Now, if it's in pending litigation, I mean, you're very, very limited as to what you can discuss. Am I correct?
Yes.
Right? So why are we even going down this road until the litigation is completed?
I have spoken with JR about this issue.
Okay.
If you want a general update about the status of the environmental systems, that's probably okay. Where the environmental systems are at, that's probably okay. And that's also, you know, squarely within your subject matter jurisdiction. When we start getting into the complexities of the, you know, financing, funding, bonding issues that are currently pending in our Court of Appeal case, that is probably a route that would not, exactly. No, we don't want to go down that route.
Okay.
Okay, I like the first part, and I would like us formally to invite JR or Mr. Raymond to come in and do his generalized update version of the CRA to our commissioners.
Okay. So noted.
Thank you.
And
Sooner than
so
later.
what we'll do is we'll find out his schedule and when he's available.
Thank you. Ms. Whitman. Roy, do you have anything, sir?
Well, what I'm thinking about is I can recall at the last meeting, Bill had mentioned he had some concerns about some environmental type issues before the city council. However, he stated that we have received no notice of whatever the issues were. And so I just want to make a plea for, see if we can make sure that they are communicating with us. Like, for example, his one situation, maybe our planning is already on it. I've learned maybe about a week ago that Metro was developing a program going after a $250 million, what they call the I-405 Comprehensive Multimodal Corridor Plan, CMCP they call it. And I was just wondering, is planning looking at this or just who? Because apparently this plan, the goal was to reduce congestion, and we have that right here in Carson. And you see at the other place, moving more people, increase accessibility outcomes for all users, to support and advance equitable outcomes. It has a piece in there that says areas where there may be a question of equity that they are willing to, assuming you get it. And once I learned about it, well, I just said, I wonder if Carson is going after something like that, because then I learned, say, well, how many people already have submitted proposals? More than 400. And this is supposed to be South Bay City. So I wouldn't say I would have put that on the agenda for the next week. Frankly, I would be happy if we can find out if the city of Carson is involved in that. And there were a few other things I had seen, and many times I'll see that the Gardena is, there are environmental types of going after 5 or 6 things, and Torrance, and then I see Carson is way down behind. I'm trying to figure what's the difference. I'm not sure we're going after all this stuff. I just want us to become aware, and that whoever is once something comes in, that they would send something to the Environmental Commission, so we can be apprised of whatever it is. That's the main thing. But all the items we've hit before, I'm all for those. But I just and frankly, I don't know whatever happened to some of you some years ago when I left. There was that Dominguez Oil Field Development Project. I wonder whatever happened to that. But if you go into that report, though, you'll see a lot of stuff that's still current today that could be used. But I don't know, maybe there's a lot of the stuff here that I just would like to see good communication between us and perhaps planning and whoever seems to be doing stuff. But this multimodal thing, I really would have wanted to jump in it, but you have to have your proposal in by the 9th. Even though I still intend to follow it and who comes out, but I can't believe over 400 and some people have already asked him for the money, and if Carson hasn't. But that's,
well, maybe Ms. Whitman can answer that question. Are you familiar with that now?
No, can you tell me about this particular? I don't know this one.
It's called the Interstate 405 Comprehensive Multimodal Corridor Plan. And apparently what I thought was pretty attractive by it, that on each side of the 405 freeway, coming all right down through Carson, these are the people they want, and that extends all the way from the valley to Orange County. But I could see things, hey, that even takes in all the stuff that we've got, but you could go 3 miles on each side of it. You can submit a proposal. And of course, they have just near the end of their first part of planning. And right after that, they will, start trying to weed out those who have submitted proposals. But I believe we can still do something once we just find out that nobody else in Carson is going after it. But it's a big chunk of money, frankly. They also have within it what they call the Congested Corridors Program. And I just don't know, maybe I thought, well, maybe our planning people are trying to get it. But it really speaks a lot to environmental issues, and of course, being in what they consider a communities that has a number of people of color and those issues.
So
Sure.
Commissioner Love, are you asking to be added to the future agenda list?
Yeah.
That's his recommendation.
Uh,
Okay, it's called the Interstate 405 Intermodal. One more time.
Multimodal. MULTIMODAL. Corridor plan. So it's
Corridor
basically,
grant.
right. So it's basically 3 miles on each side of the 405. And you're eligible, the line goes all the way to Orange County, or it goes to the valley. But Carson is right, we've got our 405, and we know right there, bottom all in the whole area.
All right.
Eliza Jane, you're welcome to make a very brief response, but again, per the Brown Act, it's not an item on the agenda. We can add it to the future agenda items list. You're welcome to make a brief response, but I don't want to get into a discussion or deliberations.
No, that's fine. I mean, what we could do is at the future meeting, we could talk about the types of grants that Public Works is going after and kind of our strategy. Because there are so many. So this is just like one of thousands, and we just don't hear about all of them. But we can talk about that later. If that's
Thank you.
agendized.
All right, anyone else?
So do we have, let's just do this to make sure we get it on the record and have it approved. Looking at the list that you have, with the addition of Commissioner Love's addition with respect to the 405, do we have let's just take a roll call vote and make sure that we're okay with that list. I will say that setting the priorities are difficult. I've been working, I can tell you right now, I've been working with staff. I've been talking to JR about the 157 acre issue. It's very difficult to figure out where we can get staffing and where we can get the resources to provide you with some of the information that you have on your future agenda items list. We can try to set priorities, but with the resources given, I think at this point in time, can we just take an approval of the list itself?
Okay.
With the addition of Commissioner Love's 405 issue.
I would like to add one that's related to something that Commissioner Polito brought up earlier. He mentioned communities for a better environment. There is the positions for social responsibility that work closely with them, and I would like to maybe have them come in, do a presentation, and perhaps help us see our Carson environment from the medicine view, from a doctor's view, and see where our public health is.
Jessica, do you have that?
Yeah, I just wrote it down.
Okay. So now we have two items.
And I have a couple that we've talked about before, and we didn't put them on the list, so I'd like to formally put them on there now. And that's the slurries and sidewalks and the pothole issue over here in the South District 2 and 4. I brought it up before, along with the 2,000 trees for District 2 that we're short of. Everywhere else in the city has 2,000 more trees than where my area, District 2 is. So I want to get that on the beautification project on this list of priorities. From environmentally speaking, we need more trees, and we need them now more than ever with the mega droughts going on. And the 220th potholes, it's disastrous over here. It's shameful that we have not gotten. I've spoken to Liza, I've spoken to her boss, Mr. Roberts, about this, and everybody else. Just so you know, I went through the procedures properly, and now I want to formally put it on here this list of priorities, because I'm on deaf ears from Eliza's office. I have to say thank you to the city manager. He's doing a great job, and he is working on this. So I'm figuring that she's gonna give us a report tonight, maybe on that a little bit. If not, I'll ask during my oral communications.
I still got a question, Mr. Polito, and we discussed this. How can slurry and potholes be the purview of the Environment Commission? I mean, the work is ultimately going to have to be planned, budgeted, and completed by Public Works.
And you know how it does work into the beautification. You come down to your city. Do you want to see the way that we've never had in 35 years I've been here, our cities down here in the South looking so raggedy? So many people calling me, getting tires broken, alignments. I ride my bike up and down here, and I got 2 flat tires just going through a pothole that, I couldn't see. It was deep. And she knows this, Eliza knows this very well, and it's part of our beautification project of the city. You have to see, environmentally speaking, we want to have our entrances, all the entrances. Look at Figueroa as another disaster. You want to say, where's our priorities at? Where are we at with our slurries and our asphalt repairs and our sidewalks? It's dangerous. Kids are riding their skateboards in front of my house. My tree there across the street too, it's up like a mountain. Everybody has to be careful, because they don't see, they will hurt themselves, and God forbid we get a lawsuit or something. But
okay, it's getting late. We now have 7, 8, 9 items on the revised future agendas items. Let's take a vote on this.
Good.
Roll call vote.
Roll call vote. Beg pardon?
Mr. Chair, don't forget to add the items I modified. Truck
I think,
queuing
yes, I
parking
think,
should also be idling and on Lomita and elsewhere or in the whole city. And then in addition to Jesse Marquez, let's add, as Celia said, let's add Alicia Rivera from Communities for a Better Environment and add, we can add,
Be Martha Dina Arguello was for Physicians for Social Responsibility.
right, that one too. And you can add
okay, so that makes,
one that spoke tonight too, if you want.
that makes 10 items in, right, Jessica?
Rubina.
No, that's item number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Invite local environmental groups to present about their top issues. We're just adding different other groups.
Okay, but it's still additional items. I mean, they're different people, so we have to make them
And
additional items. So,
Rowena Sewell with Communities for a Safe Schools, we could
Okay.
add her too if you want her back next month.
okay,
So
I'm gonna ask for a motion so we can add these items and move forward. Just
Motion,
second,
Okay. Roll call vote. Commissioner
Yes, please.
Watkins.
I'm going to abstain now.
I'm sorry, that was a no?
abstain, he said.
instead of abstain, I believe.
Abstain?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, abstain. I need a little more information on that.
Okay. Commissioner Taylor,
Yes,
Commissioner Hobson.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay, yes.
Yes. Okay. Commissioner Polito,
Yes,
Commissioner Coons,
yes,
Commissioner Love,
Yeah,
and alternate Celia Valampando.
Yes.
Okay.
thank you very much. Motion passes. So we'll update
Yeah.
the future agenda items and get them back to you as soon as we can.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
So again, I'm not convinced that next month's agenda will be any better than this month's, because if I hadn't have brought up, we'd have been done in a half an hour anyway. So if you don't want to vote on what should be on the hot items on next month's agenda and put those on, I would like the chair and the staff to tell us which ones are they going to try to get on next month so that we can change it if we're not happy with that. So
And-
either we vote on the items we're going to try to get for next month, maybe 2 or 3 of these 10 items, something like that. But we need to add more items. We'll never get to these if we don't. All we had was fireworks and a presentation tonight, which is the last and lowest. I'm sure it was the lowest priority. So I would like to see what's being planned for next month.
I think those are, if you have comments like that, that's appropriate for your commissioner comment section.
Okay, well, I'm going to make a motion then. I move that we put the tree item on next month's agenda.
On
And
there.
citywide, no, that we put it on the agenda. We bring Greg
But how do we know
McDonald
we're
in,
gonna be able
somebody
to get to
talk
work?
about it
Sir,
from the city.
sir, I think
Citywide
this,
tree update, presentations available, grant funding, city budget, etc. It doesn't have to be everything in there, but let's talk about doing it. If we don't put it on the agenda, it'll never happen. If you don't want to talk about truck queuing, because that was today, let's talk about having Harold Williams here. Well, we had a water speaker from Metropolitan, West Basin to the sub. So that kind of fills that one a little bit for today. So let's get an update on the Dominguez Channel. That's a high priority item.
I can commit to doing a
Let's pick
presentation on
2 or
the
3 items that we're going to try to get on next month's agenda.
I can commit to doing a quick presentation on the trees.
okay,
Who would? Who's speaking?
Ms.
No, you're
Whitman said
good.
she'll do an update on the trees.
Okay,
Next, we'll try to, I'll ask that the staff
put it
try
on
to,
the agenda.
I'll ask that the staff try to schedule a visit of the CRA site, I mean, of the site, if that's possible, whoever wants to go. That's 2 items. And we'll try to find if Mr. Marquez is available. That's 3 items.
Okay, great.
That's what we'll try to get done.
Let's get 3 items. That would suit me real nice. Then I
Okay.
don't have to vote on which ones to put on there. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Okay. Next item will be, excuse me, I think that's item number,
I think it's
okay, any more oral communications from,
commissioners.
oral communications from the commission? Who
We're
wants
on
to go
oral co-
first?
we're on
Please
oral-
limit your comments to 2 minutes.
Are we on oral communications now?
Yes, sir, we are.
Okay, somebody else can go first. I'll wait. No problem.
Mr. Love, you got anything?
So it's, I think essentially we hit most of the areas. And I know the things I intend to do, I will be doing some things on their own, of course, not using the environmental permission name, just to get a little bit more stuff to bring in. That's all, everything will be fine.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I just have a comment. I was very disappointed in the back and forth tonight. I think that we waste a lot of time, and staff has worked all day, and I'm sure they want to get home. And the time that we spent tonight is going back and forth, arguing, especially when we had guests here as well. I believe we need to put an end to that. I know we all have our own opinions, but I think, once you get it out, we don't have to keep going on back and forth with this. So I would really like to see us try to do a better job and try to work together a little closer and not have this back and forth. That's a comment. Oh, and happy Father's Day to all the men.
Thank you. Mr. Watkins, sir, any comments?
No. That's just, I'm going to do some research and I'll be prepared in the next meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Polito, 2 minutes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I would like to say a few things. I don't agree with what Lenore was saying, only because I like robust debate and I like our freedom of speech and our First Amendment right to, be respectful and to be within our realm, but also to be able to speak up and let it be known. So, it's nothing wrong with that. Staff is doing the best job they can do. It could be better, but they're short staffed right now, and I respect that. I just would like to see the director. I'm glad she's stepping up tonight, and she said she'll do a tree report. That's a good start. I'd like to see, though, a regular report, like I said before, just on the generalities, what's going on in our city regarding our public works. I'm, against staff-driven agendas all my life. I've been fighting that because we are the community. We are the ones that can raise, like Mr. Coons did tonight very clearly, the issues and our priorities, and staff will adhere to it or try to do their best within their reason to get to do what we're asking. And we're not going to have to argue about it anymore. If it gets done and done properly, we will be one happy family, trust me. My other 2 things is happy Father's Day, happy great grandfather's day, and happy Papa's Day to all the men. I think we should take a moment of silence when we adjourn for all those children of Uvalde in Texas that were massacred. And, it's just, it's a sad day for the United States with all this violence that is going around with the massacres. And I'm for one, for gun reform in a positive way. Get rid of the AR-16s and the rest of those guns. Nobody should have those except military and our law enforcement. And in closing, I think we had a great meeting tonight, even though it went a little longer, but we all have a lot to say and share. And I would just wish you all a good evening and thank you for hearing me out on my passion for our city, and especially for my area, which I feel is being neglected. And there's a disparity issue that is going to be brought up every time I can, that we need to get our fair share out here of our public works and our services for District 2 and for District 4, specifically my backyard, because I get a lot of complaints at my block captains meetings. Right now, you know, with the slurries, a big issue for 2 years. I think Eliza's, I was hoping she was gonna give us a little report on that, but she can call me directly and let me know the good news. I already heard from the city manager that we're finally at Gulf Avenue Track. It's gonna get some work out here after they left it with the crack sealers for a year and a half almost now of just an eyesore for our community. Shame on us in that respect. But otherwise, have a great evening. Happy 4th of July. If we don't see each other, safe and sane. God bless you guys. Thank you.
Anyone, on my last, Ms. Villapando, no comments? Mr. Coons, go ahead.
I would like to thank everybody for the meeting, and I'm sorry it got to what it did at times. This is an issue that we'll be bringing to the council. Hopefully this coming, truck idling is responsible for most of the pollution in Carson. Diesel trucks, 85% is 75, 85, it depends, is our pollution is that, and the rest is refineries. So that's where we stand. And if we can do something about it, that's why I'm in a hurry to do. And plus there's a council meeting next Tuesday. So I'm sorry that it doesn't stand well with some people, but that's me. And from now on, so I don't have to make a motion as what's to be on the next agenda. I like what the chair did this time. He's stating what items they're going to try to get on the agenda. It's not a mandatory thing. It's what you're going to try to do, what he thinks is, and is probably going to come out right. It will get, what was it, 157 acre tree planting, and the third item, I forgot what it was. I'm getting old. Anyway, thank you all for the meeting, and happy Father's Day. Thank you.
Okay.
Hope
Lastly,
July 4th is a good one. We'll know on the 6th. And we don't.
lastly, I like to expedite this. I worked in governments for 42 years, but I think one thing that I've learned is to be very, very respectful of staff because they work hard, and we ought to be very, very civil when doing things. Now, I believe in processes, period, processes. And we had a situation where I'm meeting with staff. We come up with the agenda. Now, it may not always please everybody, but it's a process. Okay, and there's an end to it, and I think it's simplistic and it's nothing difficult. But I just kind of really request that the commissioners don't necessarily put down or badmouth staff because they're working hard. It's 9 o'clock. This should never happen. We should have been here an hour, period.
That's right.
But anyway.
Yeah, nobody, I don't think anybody's bad mouthing this.
My turn.
Go ahead.
My turn, sir. I feel as though some of us really put staff down, and I just think it's shameful, but because they work for us. They're employees and we're taxpayers. But anyway, let's try to be a little bit more civil. But I ask that if you have an issue about something that needs to go on the agenda, call me. My cell number is 310-345-7564. I'm retired. I don't work. I'm available.
Just don't do it as a quorum.
Yeah,
I'm very aware of that.
Hey, can you repeat your phone number one more time?
310-345-7564.
And you
Just don't do it as a quorum.
We won't. I'm very aware of the Brown Act, believe me. Okay, but anyway, so I don't like consternation. I'm really one that likes to work as a team and get along. I don't like, and we can agree to disagree, but I think we ought to be very civil about it, period. And I try my best. So I'm just saying that let's try to get what we can get done. We meet once a month. We got employees here. It's 9 o'clock, and they should have been home a long time ago. But anyway, and my position is this: if the city attorney makes a ruling and says something, and I just think we need to go by that, and it's you. that they're wrong. And I don't necessarily think you can prove that. None of us have been to law school. So when Ms. Lehman says something, let's let it go with that as opposed to becoming argumentative about it. Doesn't make any sense. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Let's have a moment of silence for the very tragic situation that happened in Uvalde. Just a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. Everybody have a wonderful weekend and see you next time.
All
Bye,
right.
everybody.
All right.
Good night, everybody. God bless Carson. Take care.
Meeting's gonna start at 8:59.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. See you later.